right, everyone, welcome. But as we're getting started, I thought it'd be fun, since it's, the season, to go, and it's been quite a year for all of us, for us to go around and give a little shout out about what we're thankful for this time of year. And first, I'd like to lead it off by saying we all agreed, we met and had a vote, that we're thankful for you, our readers, for attending these events and for buying our books, and we appreciate you so very much. Now I'm going to kick it to J. Marshall Freeman to start us off and tell us a little bit about what you're thankful for.
Well, at the risk of sounding like I'm sucking up to my publisher, this is my first book that's been professionally published, and Bold Strokes has been just so wonderful all the way along, and that's been great for someone who doesn't know the industry and has wanted that hand-holding, and so that's been a big one for me. And I'll also add to that a year of activism, which is so many people taking to the streets, speaking their minds and saying, no, if we're going to rebuild the world post-COVID, can we try to rebuild it with more justice and equity? So I'm grateful for that.
That was excellent. That was very excellent. Thank you very much. Fiona, tell us a little happy thing.
I am grateful for my health. I think that that's something that this year has been, a good reminder of, that it can be fleeting. I am very grateful for my family, my little squad. My two little kids have kept me entertained and busy and tired, but they keep me present, which I think is really important. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. So I'm tired, but I'm very silly and giggly and happy. So I'll take it.
Awesome. Awesome. Michelle, M.A. Binfield, talk to us.
Yeah, I'm the token Brit, I think, possibly, but I'm still thankful, even though we don't have Thanksgiving. Before we went live, I was complaining about my back hurting. So I am grateful, without getting too political, for our wonderful National Health Service, which has treated me very well at no cost, thankfully, to me. So yeah, I'm thankful for my health also. Generally, I'm healthy, and for my wonderful National Health Service.
Excellent. Georgia.
Well, it's interesting because I was going to go one way, but now that I'm thinking about it,
We're just going to go two ways.
I'm going to go both ways. This is new. I'm really oddly thankful for social media. I am not always a huge fan, but during this past, 9 months, I'm an introvert. I love being alone. So the first couple of months I was like, this is great. I don't have to talk to anybody and it's okay. And then, 5 months went by and I was like, okay, now it's a lot. This is a lot of alone time. This is a lot of me time. And if I didn't have things like Zoom and FaceTime and even just Messenger on Facebook or any of these ways that I can contact my friends and talk to them and connect in some way, shape, or form, I don't know what we would have done if we didn't have this stuff right now. I mean, I think a lot of us would have gone a little crazy. So I am really shockingly thankful for social media right now. Just right now, though. Later on, ask me again.
Yeah, she'll be like, what? Why are all these people?
Goddamn Twitter.
Excellent. Okay, Nicole, round us out here.
I think I'm just thankful for the togetherness that the pandemic has afforded us. So much togetherness, all the time togetherness with my wife and my kids, just constantly together. So,
Nicole, there's nobody there. It's just me.
But I'm thankful that we're actually afforded the ability to be able to be careful and stay home and be safe.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's something I'm thankful for too, just being able to be safe. And thanks to everyone who's out there in the world doing the things that help keep us safe. So just a couple of housekeeping things. We are going to all mute our cameras and audio when the other people are reading. And if you are watching, if you have questions for the authors, feel free to type those in the Q&A box. If you want to do a shout out, I see a bunch of you already have. Feel free to use the chat box. I'll be posting, for those of you who are watching live, promotional code for all of these authors' releases, which will be available for purchase December 1st, but they're available for pre-order now. So get your orders in now. And we're going to start with Fiona Riley. Fiona, will you tell us a story?
I will tell you a story. So those of you who don't know me, my name is Fiona Riley, and I write contemporary lesbian romance with Bold Strokes Books. I'm going to be reading today from A Christmas Miracle, which is one of the novellas in the All I Want for Christmas novella series. This story takes place in the Mirage Bar, which is a bar in Boston, a fictional bar in Boston, and it's owned by Mira Donahue. And the point of view we're going to be in is Courtney Rivers. She has rented the bar as a buyout for her holiday Christmas party for her business. And she's been dealing with the events planner who just went on maternity leave. So today, it's a few weeks before the party, and she's meeting with Mira, the owner, for the first time, but she's never met her before. So she's a little early because she's nervous and excited because this is a great opportunity to have a bar party here. So she's at the bar and she meets the bartender, Tegan, and she's been absentmindedly staring at this beautiful woman at the other end of the bar, not so casually staring at her. And Tegan has made a note of it and says, do you think she's cute? And Courtney agrees that she is attracted to this woman, but she has no idea why. And so this scene starts with Tegan serving her a drink. In Courtney's mind, she's been calling this attractive woman down at the other end of the bar, Lady McHotlips. And so we're going to meet the two characters now. Lady McHotlips comes over and interrupts Tegan talking to Courtney. And she says, Tegan, can you make a drink for the woman over there by the window? Tegan says, sure. She grabs a glass and reaches for a bottle to add, oh, by the way, this is Courtney. And she thinks you're cute. McHotlips arched a perfectly sculpted eyebrow in Courtney's direction, and she wanted to sink under the bar from embarrassment. I thought bartenders were supposed to be great secret keepers, Courtney muttered as she toyed with the napkin under her drink. That's probably a stereotype that's unfairly applied to most of us. Tegan can't keep a secret to save her life. McHotlips flashed an award-winning smile, and Courtney was reconsidering her nickname for her. But I can. Good to know who and who not to share my innermost secrets with, then, Courtney said, finding it hard not to be mesmerized by the woman in front of her. You can tell me anything. This woman was beyond charming. Something tells me you say that to all the girls, Courtney replied, wary, but also intrigued. McHotlips was flirting with her. Only the ones who think I'm cute. Courtney dropped her head into her hands, mortified. If it makes you feel any better, the feeling's mutual. The soft, flirty reply emboldened Courtney to peek between her fingers just to confirm she thought what she heard. She had McHotlips' full attention, so much so that she was leaning on her forearms on the bar, dangerously close, in Courtney's opinion. Oh, well, thanks. Courtney sat up a little straighter, trying not to blush. Thank you for thinking I'm cute, she said. Well, to be fair, cute didn't really cross my mind. I was thinking more along the lines of set. Courtney put her hand over her mouth to stop herself. What did Tegan put into this mocktail? This garnered another arched eyebrow, this time accompanied by a licked lower lip. Courtney was a goner. Can I get you another? She asked. Another what? Courtney was a little confused and also still distracted by the full lips in front of her. Drink. She motioned to the empty glass that Courtney hadn't realized she'd drained. I probably shouldn't. I'm meeting someone soon. Courtney was only vaguely aware of the reason she was here today, because if flirting with this woman wasn't the true reason she was here, then the day seemed wasted. McHotlips checked the receipt that Tegan had left in the glass before her. It looks like you're having a mocktail. Let me make you another. Any requests? Something festive, Courtney replied, though something told her anything this woman made her would be delightful. I've got just the thing. After a few moments, McHotlips placed an elegant-looking cocktail in front of her. Seeds of some sort floated on the carbonated bubbles of a deep red drink. Courtney felt herself squeal internally. This was beautiful. What is it? A virgin version of our pomegranate royale, which normally contains pomegranate liqueur, champagne, and seeds. But in your case, it's a virgin. It looks wonderful, thank you. McHotlips leaned across the bar and pushed it towards her. The cuff of her right sleeve appeared to have rolled down from making Courtney's drink. Courtney gave in to her desire and fixed the wayward sleeve to touch the gorgeous, charming bartender in the process. She rolled the end of the sleeve and tucked the fabric into itself, securing it into the other side. Try it. McHotlips placed a hand on the one that Courtney had still on her forearm. She gave it a gentle squeeze. Courtney let her hand linger before reaching for her glass. She sipped the glass. It was festive. It was fantastic. It was exactly the type of thing she would want for a company party. Shit, the meeting. You don't like it? The warm brown eyes looked concerned. No, yes, I do. It's incredible. Courtney shook her head to clear the lust fog that she was in. I seem to keep forgetting about this meeting I'm supposed to be having, and I blame you. Sorry, not sorry. The wicked grin that accompanied the reply did little to dissipate Courtney's newfound infatuation with this woman. After a pause, the woman asked, is the meeting for work or pleasure? Work, though clearly the only thing on Courtney's mind at the moment was pleasure. Work can wait, she replied, in that same sexy tone from earlier. I have to admit, I'm glad this isn't a pleasure meeting. Why is that? Courtney traced the rim of her glass. I'm not ready to fight anyone off for your attention. Those pink lips parted, and Courtney wanted to taste them. Oh, and do you think you have my full attention now? Courtney asked as she realized she was leaning forward as she spoke. I know I do, and I like it that way. McHotlips was killing her. You know, it occurs to me that I don't know your name yet, but you know mine thanks to that traitor Tegan. And though I'm happy to keep using the one I've made up for you in my mind, I'd like to know your actual name. So you can scream it later? Courtney felt her jaw drop and her sex clench. McHotlips reached across the bar and took Courtney's free hand. I'm kidding. Courtney shifted in her seat. Too bad. McHotlips surveyed her curiously. What's the name you've been calling me in your head? The formal or the informal name? Courtney traced her hand, turned her hand over and tried to stifle a shudder as McHotlips traced lazy circles on her palm. Let's start with the informal name. McHotlips. Courtney would have been embarrassed by the admission, but she was too entranced by this woman's touch to care. She laughed that sexy laugh from before. And the formal name? Lady McHotlips. She stopped her ministrations briefly to squeeze Courtney's hand before pulling back. I hope my lips are worthy of such a regal title. They appear to be. Courtney made no attempt to look anywhere but at the full pink lips in front of her. Maybe we should just do a test to confirm your assumptions. McHotlips leaned forward infinitesimally. Courtney wondered how quickly she could vault over this bar. First, a name, please. Courtney bit her bottom lip to keep herself in her seat. Are you sure? Kissing a stranger seems like something really sexy right now. She leaned closer. Courtney squeezed her thighs together. This woman's confidence and swagger were impressive. And if we do, and it's as good as I imagine it will be, what will I moan into your ear later when I ask for more? She was fishing for a name here. Please would probably do the trick, McHotlips answered, and Courtney laughed because she'd walked right into that one. I have excellent manners. I might even say thank you afterward. After what, exactly? Courtney had meant kissing, but this conversation seemed to be taking a very different tone. She didn't hate it. Whatever, she recorded. This is getting better and better. So, she motioned across the bar. You are Mira, she replied, and she took Courtney's hand. And it's very, very nice to meet you. Oh. It dawned on her. She pulled her hand back out of reflex. Shit, you're Mira. As in Mira Donahue. That Mira. Mira leaned back and crossed her arms over her chest. Are you going to serve me with a subpoena or something? No. I'm Courtney. Courtney Rivers. You're 3 o'clock. You'll have to read the rest to see what happens next.
What happens next?
That was awesome.
McHotlips.
Lady McHotlips.
Don't forget the formal name.
Oh, that's hilarious. So that's a novella, and it's in All I Want for Christmas. Available for pre-order now. So Georgia, you're gonna read. Which book are you gonna read from?
I'm gonna read from 16 Steps to Forever in this reading, and then I will read from All I Want for Christmas in the next reading.
All right. Well, we're gonna skip you and go to.
Hi.
I was just curious. Idle minds. Michelle, will you read us a story?
I will. I'll be happy to. Yes.
That's awesome.
So this is Not This Time, which is my second novel. It is, I guess, a second chance romance set in Miami. Two former members of a girl band who were best friends, girl band members and lovers for a long time secretly. They lost each other. You'd have to read the book to find out how and why. And then 5 years later, they're thrown back into each other's lives. So Sophia Flores is still in the music industry. She's kind of jaded. She's left the girl band, gone solo, but still very successful and still very closeted. And Madison, is the person that she was in love with for many years. And she's left the business and is now an interior designer. And the universe throws them together in the way of these things. So Maddie ends up working on Sophia's house in Miami. So I'm going to read, slight change of pace from Fiona's reading. So we join them maybe halfway, a third of the way into the book. Sophia's been drinking, Maddie's at her house, dropped round to do some work late. And Sophia's got things that she can't say, that she would quite like to say, and she's drinking and under a bit of pressure. So here we go. Sophia felt the wave of panic moments before it hit. She leaned forward, putting her head down closer to her knees, taking in breaths as deeply as she could. Her chest felt like it was folding in two, and her heart was racing, the sound of it whooshing in her ears. Maddie shuffled closer, and Sophia felt Maddie's hand on her back. She began to stroke it from the top of her spine to the bottom and back up again. She tried to focus on the feel of it, on the up and down movement, to breathe in time with the stroke. Maddie took her other hand and turned it over so that it was palm up on her thigh. She began the same rhythmic stroking movement, tracing her fingers from the centre of Sophia's palm, up her wrist and back again. Breathe, Sophie, just breathe. It's okay, it's all okay. Despite the pulsing in her head, she could hear Maddie telling her over and over that it was going to be all right. Sophia had had panic attacks back when they'd been together in the band, and Maddie was doing everything she'd done then to calm her down. Slowly, she felt the crushing feeling in her chest lessen. Her breathing became easier, and her vision and hearing cleared. She concentrated on the feel of Maddie's fingers on her hand and wrist as she kept murmuring reassurances. It's settling, but please don't stop. Sophia managed to squeeze out the words, wanting Maddie to know that what she was doing was working. Maddie kept on, and Sophia felt the tension, the panic, slowly dissipate. She felt able to lift her head and look at Maddie. Thank you. It's okay. Maddie's eyes contained tenderness, and Sophia felt the warmth of it flood through her body. Maddie moved position to lie down on the couch, and Sophia felt the loss of her touch like a chill. Come here. Maddie patted the space next to her. Sophia didn't hesitate. She lay side by side with Maddie on the couch. Panic had left her body. Now she just felt tired and fragile. Turn on your side. Sophia did as Maddie asked. The remaining tension in her body drained away completely as Maddie pressed herself along the length of her back, reaching her arm across Sophia's body and taking hold of her hand, this time stroking it softly with her thumb. Sophia nestled herself against Maddie, wanting to get as close as she could. Just relax, sleep if you can, just for a little while. Maddie murmured into her ear, her lips pressed close enough for Sophia to feel the words as well as hear them. Matteo? He's okay, he's watching his cartoons. Again, Sophia felt the welcome vibration of the words as Maddie's lips brushed her ear as she spoke. Just relax, baby. Sophia relaxed into the feeling of Maddie's body pressed against her, at the wonder of Maddie calling her baby. She could feel the in and out movement of Maddie's chest against her back, the gentle grip of her fingers. She was alive to all of it. Lying together like this felt strangely familiar for something they hadn't done for so long, and Sophia couldn't stop her senses from responding to Maddie's touch. She willed her body to calm down. The panic attacks she'd had in the past were when she was overloaded and not facing up to things, and Maddie had always been the one who helped her figure out exactly where the stress was coming from. This time, Maddie couldn't help. Sophia had to find a way to end it with Noah and tell Maddie she'd been lying about him all along for the sake of her career. She'd always told herself that the lie wouldn't harm anyone, but she didn't really expect Maddie to understand or to approve. She felt her chest tighten again. Do you want to talk about where that came from? Maddie spoke softly. No. It might help. This is helping. This is what I need. She pulled Maddie's arm around her, wanting the closeness. Sophie, I just thought you, of all people, might guess, Maddie. I wouldn't have to spell it out. I mean, we never labelled ourselves when we were together, what we were, what we weren't. It was irrelevant. The alcohol mixed with the panic still buzzing in her brain meant that Sophia couldn't get the word out. It shouldn't matter now either. I just don't want to tell lies anymore, especially not to you. She stopped, scared to say it, even with the alcohol. It wasn't just the confidentiality agreement she'd signed. She thought Maddie would think the fact that she was still pretending was ridiculous and pathetic. I don't understand. Noah's not a bad guy. He's annoying sometimes, but he understands the business, the life I lead. She was still stalling. But that's not my point. He just isn't. The chime of the doorbell sounded throughout the house. Sophia and Maddie both sat up. Matteo, startled by the noise, jumped off the chair and went to Maddie. She pulled him into her lap as Sophia went to answer the door. As soon as she opened it, the photographers began their chorus of shouts, their cameras clicking and whirring. Noah reached for her and wrapped her in a big hug on the doorstep. She felt his lips on hers, and she pushed at his chest, but his grip was too strong. In a shameful corner, somewhere deep in her brain, she registered the fact that they were being photographed, and she stopped fighting him. Even with the alcohol, one thing was clear. His kiss was not the kiss she wanted. That's it.
Ooh.
Sorry.
I want to know more.
That was great.
That was a great last line there.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of people are chiming in, want to know more, and of course, you know.
Please buy the book.
The accent.
We'll find out.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
So I would like to hear from Nicole. Nicole?
Yes. All right.
Excellent.
All right. So my book, Heart of the Storm, is about Sienna and Juliet, who are in each other's lives through Will, who is Juliet's college fling and Sienna's soon-to-be ex-husband. They get thrown together on a road trip to take Juliet and Will's son and Sienna's stepson to camp. They find that they like each other a little bit, but that would just be way too complicated. So they push that all aside and decide to go on their merry way. And then there's a murder in the town, which based on their careers throws them back together, and they go out together here and there on a lot of non-dates and spend some time together, but you know, nothing is said. So this scene is when they're on one of their non-dates. Okay. They talked easily about nothing and everything and laughed for the better part of 2 hours. Sienna suggested splitting an appetizer, to which Juliet heartily agreed. The idea was to soak up the booze so that a buzz was the most Sienna would feel. Continuing to drink at a pretty quick pace while they ate sort of foiled that plan. Sienna wasn't quite drunk, but she was definitely beyond buzzed. You want to go outside for a bit? Get a little fresh air? Juliet summoned the bartender. That sounds wonderful, actually. Sienna felt the back of her neck and realized she was sweating. It was hotter in the pub than she'd realized. Juliet slapped Sienna's hand away when the bill came. She mentioned something about the Chinese food from that night at the station, but Sienna wasn't really paying attention. She was staring at Juliet's eyes, wondering if that mesmerizing shade of grayish green existed in nature or if Juliet was some kind of science fiction anomaly. Come on, Juliet said, taking Sienna by the hand. Sienna held on to Juliet's fingers, not breaking contact until they were outside on the deck. Most of the people who had been out there earlier had moved inside. There was a chill in the air that hadn't been there before. There was still one lone person riding the shallow surf on a bodyboard, but aside from him, all the other beachgoers had abandoned their activities too. The sun had set, leaving a dull glow on the horizon, even as the moon made itself known above them. They stood at the far end of the deck, away from the noise of the music and chatter that drifted outside. The band was packing up all their equipment a few feet from where they stood. Sienna leaned on the splintered railing, careful not to catch her shirt on a wooden splinter. She watched as Juliet shivered. Got cool, didn't it? Sienna nodded. She absent-mindedly brought her hand up to Juliet's back and rubbed it vigorously. When she realized what she was doing, she took her hand away quickly. A lot cooler. We're supposed to have another heat wave coming through, though. Even the small talk about weather felt natural and easy, not like they were being forced to come up with conversation. Juliet turned so that her back was facing the ocean and her hips rested against the decking. Sienna just stared out at the water, the waves sliding over the dark sand. The last holdout seemed to have picked up and left as well. Sienna felt hypnotized by the swell and drop of the whitecaps. I like you, Sienna whispered, startling herself. She continued to look out at the ocean, though she felt Juliet immediately straighten next to her. Yeah, Juliet said, also nearly a whisper. I like you too. I wish you weren't who you are. Sienna's head had mellowed to a comfortable buzz, but she still didn't seem to be able to stop the words from spilling out of her mouth. Juliet laughed thankfully. Nice. What does that even mean? I just meant that I wish there were less, obstacles. For a terrifying moment, she wondered if Juliet had assumed she meant that she liked her, and wasn't that crazy because of Will and everything, and isn't it nice spending time with a gal pal? But she meant so much more than that. Juliet's gaze told her that she understood exactly what Sienna had meant. She was looking at her, really looking at her, and Sienna thought she might melt under the weight of Juliet's stare. I do know. To tell you the truth, I think about it a lot, probably too much, Juliet said. You're funny and genuine and just beautiful, really. I'm surprised Will hasn't had to fight off both men and women trying to get close to you. Sienna's heart raced. Her head suddenly felt completely clear, as if she'd been drinking nothing but water all night long. So Juliet had thought of her in that way. If circumstances were different, Juliet would want to be with her. Sienna felt a ripple of elation flow through her, until she remembered that circumstances weren't different. Do you think, Sienna began, then cleared her throat, the hurdles in front of us are insurmountable? Juliet didn't say anything, just looked straight ahead. She seemed overcome with sadness all of a sudden, which Sienna didn't think boded well for her question. Probably. She turned toward Sienna, who was leaning on the railing in Juliet's direction. Their faces were inches apart, but neither of them moved. Their eyes were locked, and Sienna found the ethereal light the moon cast on Juliet's face prohibited her from looking away. Sienna braced herself as Juliet came the slightest bit closer. It was a bad idea, and they both knew it. So why was Juliet staring at her lips, and why was Sienna so ready to pull her close and never let her go? A loud beep and buzzing vibration broke the stillness of the moment. They nearly jumped apart, Sienna fumbling in her pocket for her phone with shaking hands. It's Declan, she said, her voice low and scratchy. He wants to know where I put his case of Mountain Dew, sorry. Juliet laughed too enthusiastically. Wouldn't it be in the fridge? She ran her hand through her hair. If it's in the fridge, he'll suck down a 12-pack in 2 days. I keep it behind the paper towels in the garage, Sienna said, replying to his message and sticking the phone back in her pocket. Makes sense. He's all about those sports drinks at my house. There was a new tension in the air that hadn't been there previously. Sienna felt awkward, and she was pretty sure Juliet felt the same. She shouldn't have said anything. Now she'd probably lose her friend, too. Juliet broke the silence. I think I'm fine to drive, but do you want to go have a few waters and play a quick game of pool or something to be sure? Sienna nodded quickly, glad the night wasn't over yet. Yeah, that sounds good. They walked back into the bar, the magic surrounding them earlier completely dissipated. Sienna could barely contain her disappointment about the detour that evening had taken. They played pool, both of them focusing on the game more than each other. Before it was out there, in the open, they could just pretend that it didn't exist, and there could be this unspoken chemistry and those unacknowledged sparks between them, exciting and forbidden and explosive. But she'd opened her mouth, and she feared she'd just ruined everything. That's it.
That was amazing.
Yeah, it was. And
So good.
What happens next? What happens next?
damn that Mountain Dew for interrupting.
Get that kid a water.
Right?
Okay, J. Marshall Freeman.
Hello.
You have the best voice.
He's
The
got a
best?
great setup there.
I've got I was going for the smaller headphones, but I could only hear out of one ear. So you get the full Dead Mouse EDM headphones.
That's just a tiny little mic there.
Yes, and this is my. There, I'll speak close and deep.
I'm going to order one while you're reading.
I'm going to be reading today from The Dubious Gift of Dragonblood. I actually have not seen a real copy of the book yet, but I should by the end of this coming week. Very excited for that unboxing. And I'm not going to be reading lesbian erotica, despite all the things I just heard, which were wonderful. Okay, in this scene, there's a lot going on. So some of it I'll cover now, and some of it you'll just have to take my word for it. It's a fantasy novel. There's a lot of world building. It starts off in Toronto with Crispin, a 16-year-old high school student who has had an eventful 24 hours. First, he found out that he carries the blood of dragons in his veins and has been invited to visit the realm of fire where the dragons live, an invitation he's not sure he wants to accept. This revelation has actually been eclipsed by his being outed at school after a love poem he wrote to the captain of the hockey team was discovered. So he's run in humiliation from the school to the Ambassador Hotel where his would-be dragon hosts are staying. There are two of them, Consul Chrysiktehe, who is mostly human, just 1/8 dragon, and her companion Tikoch, a quarter dragon who is much more lizardy and strange. At the hotel, they are waiting for the conjunction of the realm of fire with Earth when they can effect the transport across the strands. But in the meantime, Crispin's worried parents have tracked him down to the hotel. Consul Chrysiktehe said, "Your parents are on their way up." "What are we going to do?" I whined, the horror descending. Tikoch stood, flexing his arms. "I will help you escape. Just say the word Ekdahi, and we're off. I will smite any that stand in our way." My mouth dropped open, but Chrysiktehe said, "There will be no smiting, Tikoch. Go into the bedroom so you don't alarm Crispin's parents." A minute later, there was a sharp knock on the suite's front door. The consul opened it, and there was my father, a sweating monolith of injured pride. My mum stood behind his right shoulder, sighing with relief when she saw me. Consul Chrysiktehe said, "Please, come in." But Dad stood his ground. "Crispin, I'm very disappointed in you. How could you just vanish like that? Didn't you realize how worried we'd be?" "It wasn't my fault. We were viewing another dimension, and the time got away from us." Dad glared, and I asked Chrysiktehe, "Did I say that in English or dragon?" He turned to her, shaking his head. "I trusted you. I vouched for you to my wife, but you were planning to steal Crispin away from the start." The consul's expression did not change. "Crispin came here of his own free will. This is bigger than any of us, Elliot. He is the dragon groom." Dad raised his hand in the air, apparently done with the discussion. "Crispin, get your things, come with us." His temper was shorter than a garden gnome. And I would have obeyed if Chrysiktehe hadn't spoken up. Crispin has made his choice. Dad pulled out his phone and waved it at her like some magical amulet. "If my son isn't allowed to leave right now, I'm calling the police and having you charged with abduction." Mum broke the standoff by pushing past him into the suite. "Elliot, just ignore her. We're here to talk to Crispin." Mum joined me on the couch. Dad, the wind blown out of his sails, entered quietly and dropped into the big wingback chair. Mum folded her hands in her lap and gave me little encouraging smiles that made me even more wary. "Crispin, honey." "Mum, honestly, I didn't mean to worry you," I let out in a shaky breath. "It's been a weird 24 hours, okay?" She nodded, a spooky marvel of serenity. "I know, Crispin. Honey, I think there's more going on here than just this..." She waved a hand vaguely in Chrysiktehe's direction. "This dragon business. Lately you've been so moody. You use sarcasm to cover it, but I can see you're in pain." Her amateur psychology was super obvious, but still effective. I felt tears stinging my eyes. "Honest, Mom, I'm fine. I want to ask you something, Crispin, and whatever the answer, your father and I love and support you." "What?" I asked, dread cramping my stomach. "Are you and Altman in some kind of relationship? I mean, a romantic relationship?" I jumped to my feet. "What? No, why would you say that?" My heart started pounding. Mum raised a hand like she was calming a startled horse. It's okay. If he is your boyfriend, well, that's something we'll sit down and discuss because we're all in this together." And I was backing up, putting as much overwrought furniture and faux royal carpeting between us as possible. No, we're not in this together. You have no idea what you're even talking about." Say something, Elliot, my mother snapped at my father, and everything was just a freaking disaster. This was my thing, my coming out, and it was being taken away from me in a hotel room full of part dragons and freaking huge realms floating over our heads. My boyfriend. I was nothing to Altman, and nothing but a slut to the rest of the school. Dad tried the authority thing again. Crispin, these people aren't your friends. The sooner we all go home, the sooner you'll be able to think straight. Everyone looked blurry, and I realized I was crying. I don't think straight, Dad. I don't anything straight. Isn't that the point? And then, without planning it at all, without considering the consequences, I yelled, Ekdahi! The bedroom door burst open, and Tikach exploded out of it. I was swept off my feet and thrown over his back like a sack of beans. I watched my parents' shocked faces retreating as the quarter dragon ran us out onto the suite's balcony. The world turned upside down, and it took a second to realize he was climbing the outside wall of the hotel. I screamed. In no time, we reached the roof, and Tikach dropped me on the tar and pebbles. The night was windless and calm, the city around us pulsing with the play of light and sound. I felt dizzy as Tikach raised the summoning stone over his head and began chanting in the dragon tongue. With an ear-splitting crack, the realm of fire appeared overhead. The great rough world of rock was so close now, I could see animals grazing in pastures, and a city of twisted streets and towering spires, all hanging upside down. As if in celebration or warning, the polar volcanoes spewed geysers of gray and red into the sky, and somewhere I could hear a song, a poetry that made a weird kind of sense to me, connection on connection, a history older than any I knew. The din was incredible, and I only barely heard Tikach call me, Dragon Groom! He stretched out his hand, and I hurried toward the blinding light of the summoning stone. He wrapped his bony arm around my waist, and together we lifted off the roof of the Ambassador Hotel and flew headlong to the realm of fire. And what happens there, you can find out in the Dubious.
Oh my God, that was amazing!
Keep reading!
That was go later. I want to hear more.
Good.
You go from the hotel room to the realm of fire.
It's a nice hotel, so.
High rise.
Might be done now because I don't want to follow that.
There will be no smiting. Wow. I've heard a lot of buzz about this book, and I know it's true. So excellent. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right, Georgia, you have the dubious honor of following that reading.
Yeah, I'm not real happy about that. Just, to put it out there. I am going to be reading from my book that's coming out in December called 16 Steps to Forever. My lead characters are Brooke, who is a commercial real estate agent, and Macy, who is a property stager. They have met in work capacity twice. Neither time has been great. The first time, Macy ran into Brooke with a plate of Danishes and ruined a suit. And the second time was not any better, but they have been fighting an attraction for each other, and they both know it. And, they don't want to admit it, but this is the first time that they are alone together, out at a bar having a drink. Macy is about to arrive, and Brooke is already there. And it helps if I put these on. Okay, here we go. Macy finger combed her hair, smoothed the hand down her hip, and headed toward the far corner of the bar. She grinned and shook her head as she passed a table of 3 guys. "What's amusing you?" Brooke asked as Macy took the stool next to her. "Don't look, but those 3 guys at the table over there are so checking you out." Brooke turned and leaned around Macy. "What part of don't look did you not get?" Macy asked through clenched teeth, but she laughed. "I wanted to see," Brooke said. "What can I get you?" No, I invited you. I buy." She glanced at Brooke's glass of what looked to be gin and tonic. "I see you started without me." "Listen, it's happy hour and you were late." "I was a woman alone at a bar with no drink. It was very sad." Macy jerked a thumb over her shoulder. "I'm sure those guys would have taken care of you." "I mean, the one in the black sweater is pretty cute." Not sure what to do with that remark, Macy made eye contact with the bartender and ordered herself an extra, extra dirty martini with extra, extra olives. So Brooke was probably straight. Not really a surprise, but definitely a disappointment. And Macy hadn't even taken a moment to wonder about Brooke's sexuality. She was that rusty. Ah, well, work colleagues at happy hour it is. Not dirty, not even extra dirty. Extra, extra dirty. I am learning so much about you already. Brooke grinned over the rim of her glass. But wait, that was kind of flirty, wasn't it? Don't forget the extra olives. Those are important. On cue, the bartender set down the martini. The ones they have here are stuffed with blue cheese. It's totally worth it to ask for extra. And are you planning to share? Again, with the flirty, there was no way around it. Macy might have been out of the dating pool for a very long time, but she was pretty sure she could still recognize flirting. Couldn't she? This was definitely it. Wasn't it? Don't forget the extra, extra olives. These, Macy reached for the swizzle stick that had been stabbed through 4 fat cheese-filled olives and swirled it around the glass. I don't know. They're pretty delicious. What do I get out of the deal? What do you want? Gazes held, sexual tension crazy thick. Macy swallowed hard, opened her mouth to answer. Macy, you are here! Macy snapped her head around to the voice. Emily, her boss. Flirtus Interruptus. Emily, hey. I wanted to know how things went at the gardens today, but you didn't answer my text, so I stalked you on Find My Friends. It said you were in this vicinity, so I took a chance. Emily was a fast talker, so her words came out in one long, endless stream, and then she turned to Brooke and stuck out a hand. Hi, I'm Emily Baxter. This is Brooke Sullivan. Macy caught Brooke's eye, hoped she was telegraphing her disappointment over this intrusion. She works for Sasha and is the agent for the gardens. Oh, Emily said, clearly surprised. I've heard about you. Without waiting for an invitation, Emily raised a hand to the bartender and ordered herself a glass of white wine. As she leaned forward on the bar between Macy and Brooke, Macy mouthed an apology to Brooke. Brooke smiled, shrugged, and winked. She winked at Macy, who could feel the heat flood her cheeks. Wine in hand, Emily repositioned herself so she could see them both. So, tell me about the gardens. How did it go? It was over an hour before Emily finally sounded like she was getting ready to go. Brooke felt bad about the relief that flooded her system when Emily slid her arms into her dark blue pea coat. She was nice. She was interesting and funny, and chatting with her hadn't been a hardship at all, but Brooke spent the past 75 or so minutes trying not to be obvious about looking past Emily so she could see Macy. And poor Macy, a poker face she did not have, and it made Brooke smile to think about it. Macy nodded and chuckled and interjected a few words here and there when it was called for, but the frustrated disappointment was pretty clear on her face. Seemed Macy had wanted more time, just the two of them, as Brooke had. That was a good thing. This was great, Emily was saying. Thanks for letting me crash your party. She was completely oblivious to having interrupted anything, but that was okay. Brooke didn't want her to feel bad or embarrassed about it, so she smiled and said all the right things and watched as Emily made her way towards the door through a crowd that had grown much thicker. Does it make me an awful person if I say I thought she'd never leave? Brooke asked Macy with a grimace. Oh my God, no, I felt the same way. Then Macy sighed and pressed her lips together in a straight line. Unfortunately, I have to go too. She motioned to the bartender to close out her tab. Oh. Defeat settled on Brooke's shoulders before she had a chance to school her expression. What was happening to her? What was the deal here? Brooke didn't understand how she'd gone from one extreme to the other when it came to Macy, but she had, and quickly, and it had her off balance. Macy covered Brooke's hand with hers. It was warm and soft. No, I don't want to. Believe me, I have to. I have 3 dogs at home, remember? And I have a dog walker who comes by every weekday, but she was there about 6 hours ago, and my old girl needs medication. The things Brooke wanted to say surprised her so much that she actually sat there speechless for a moment. This is the best evening I've had in longer than I can remember. I was hoping to spend more time with you. I am super attracted to you, and it's freaking me the hell out. Until Macy's expression changed to concern and Brooke snapped to attention. No problem, she finally said and grinned and nodded. I completely understand. And she did. Macy signed the check, put her card away, then turned to Brooke. Do you think... She seemed to study her for a beat before starting again. Can we do this again, like soon? Brooke did not hesitate. I would like that. So much truth in those words. Very much. Good. Macy put on her coat, shouldered her purse. Then without warning, she wrapped her arms around Brooke and hugged her tightly. Brooke felt her warm body, smelled the coconut scent of her hair, felt the softness of Macy's cheek as it slid against hers. Bye, Macy whispered, and then turned and left without looking back. Brooke could do nothing but sit there, count Macy's steps until she couldn't see her feet any longer, 23. Swallow, stare. Yeah, this was going to be a whole thing, wasn't it?
Okay, Flirtus Interruptus wins the line.
Oh God, that's so good.
You.
Now none of us can use it, so there you go.
I like the question that said, how painful is it? Perhaps we shouldn't dwell on it. Yeah.
Okay, well, we have a couple of minutes, so if anybody has a question, feel free to type it in the Q&A box. And while we're waiting, I'm just going to ask you, how do you get in the mood to write, folks? I think that's an especially important question in these trying times. Do you need to be in a mood to write? And if so, how do you get in that mood? J. Marshall Freeman.
I procrastinate for a long time. I read every bit of social media. I clean the house. What I really actually was one of the things that was really hard about the pandemic is that I used to go out and write in libraries a lot. And I would go and I put an audiobook on my head and I'd walk and I'd get the fresh air and I'd arrive kind of ready to do it. And just moving from one room in the house to another made it hard to write in the first few months. And now it's okay. You have only 2 hours and deadlines. So that's the mood.
Understood. Nicole, how about you?
Yeah, same. I mean, really, I have to just kind of sit down and force myself to do it because just everything will distract me. And when it comes to, sexy time scenes, what I like to do is brush up on a little, old L Word, watch a little Bet and Tina, and then I'm in the zone. That's how I do that.
OG L Word will do it every
Really
time.
will.
Michelle?
I've just taken that on as an idea. I'm just going to go and get my L Word box set. I mean, I like everybody, I find it hard. I'm a bit of a reward and I don't know what the word is, but carrot and stick. So I'll set my clock for a time, and then I'll say at the end of that I can have whatever it is. Tea.
Incentive.
Yeah.
I've been doing that with The Crown lately. I can watch an episode of The Crown if I write 5 minutes.
Good, that's good.
Yeah, it works-ish. It depends, yeah.
Fiona?
I write to deadline mostly. I'm a plotter, so I write I know what I'm going to write for the most part. So when I sit down, I know I have an agenda to get to, and I have a certain amount of time to get to that because I have little kids and I do work a lot. So for me, it's I know I have to get it done, and I already kind of know what I have to write, so just to sit there and do the work. But writing is cathartic for me. It's a relief and a release. So I like to write, so I don't have to force myself. If I can get time to write, that's a different story, but that's not always the case.
Understood. Georgia, what's your mood-altering writing substance? Is it wine?
Not always, no. That actually does help if it's a love scene, though. But I write in the morning, so I got to be careful.
Yeah, whatever.
I have found that routine is what really helps me. And it doesn't always work. I mean, I have days when the words are just not happening. But I remind myself that I am the boss and this is my job. And I am in control of these characters. They are not in control of me. And usually, if a combination of that plus talking to some of my daily friends, Carson included, who help slap me around to get me going, or Carson is great and she's like, it's okay, you don't have to write today, which gets me writing. So that helps as well. But yeah, there are a lot of different methods that I use, but it's generally routine is what helps me.
Awesome. Great answers all. I will be stealing all these ideas. So we're out of time, but the one question that did come in through the Q&A box was directed at Nicole, but I'm going to direct it at all of you. And the question was, will there be more books? And so just raise your hand if you have another book you're working on. Come on, Nicole, raise your hand.
Not yet, but I will.
Okay, so go ahead, raise.
Okay.
Okay, good. Everybody's always working on new books. Thanks, y'all, for joining us tonight, and have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Carson.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. You were great.